Welcome back. Well, the talk of the town this morning is the Browns hiring Todd Monken to be their head coach. We know this has sparked some conflicted opinions from Cleveland sports fans, but what do the experts have to say about this? Well, let's send it over to Dave in Studio B for that.
Yeah, that is not me. I have someone that can take that role, Danita. Thank you very much. I am with Scott Petrak from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram here this morning. Scott, great to see you as always.
Hey, bud.
We've done this a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, a lot of new coaches in this town.
Yeah, right. So many with the Browns, under the Haslams especially. 19th head coach in Browns history. What do you think? Todd Monken, do you like it? Do you not like it?
I think he's got a chance because he's a good coach, right? He's smart. He's had great success on offense, whether it was in college with Georgia, won national championships, with Lamar in Baltimore 2 years ago, one of the best offenses in the history of the NFL. But I think the pick is surprising, number one, because he's not a young offensive mind, right? He's not Jim Schwartz. And I think it's a bit uninspiring because I don't think, especially from a fan perspective, because I think they wanted somebody else besides Todd Monken.
But do you think the fans would have complained no matter who it would have been of these three choices that it was down to?
You know what? I really do, Chud. And I just think that's the state of affairs with the Browns right now. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of skepticism. And that wasn't going to change unless they got a guy like John Harbaugh or Sean McDermott, and they weren't going to come.
Monken is old in regards to coaching, right? I mean, for never being a head coach before?
Yeah, he turned 60 next week, a week from today. He turned 60. So, yeah, that is. It's the same. He's the same age as Jim Schwartz, right? So I think when you talk about this search, a lot of people focused on young, hot offensive coordinators, the Sean McVay type, and Todd Monken just doesn't fit that bill from an age perspective. But he is one of the best offensive minds around.
We'll get to Schwartz in a moment. During this whole process, you and I talk once a week on your podcast, and I never felt like it was going to be Schwartz. I don't know why. Maybe part of me thought if it was going to be, it would have been a lot quicker. He was already in there. But I didn't know who it was going to be. We didn't know for sure, right? We went back and forth on it. But now looking back at it, Monken was one of the first guys in the door, right?
Yeah, he was the first guy that requested outside of the building, right, Schwartz. And then when they did second interviews, it was Jim Schwartz and then Todd Monken. So they always had their eye on him. They do a ton of reference work on candidates. That's how the Browns do this search. It's a deliberate search. It took 24 days. They do a ton of work. So they knew what they had in Todd Monken. Plus, he'd been in the building in 2019 as a coordinator. So Andrew Berry wasn't around that year, but the Haslams certainly were. Other people in the organization were. So they had a good idea who Todd Monken was, even if everybody else kind of put him to the side.
Who would you rather have, Stefanski or Monken?
Well, I think Stefanski.
See, so then maybe that's why people are upset. They're like, you get rid of Stefanski and you bring in Monken. It's not like you brought in, a Super Bowl champion in the past or something like that.
No, you're exactly right. Now, I'll tell you this. The personalities are different. Yeah. Todd Monken and Kevin Stefanski.
Okay.
And I think from a news conference perspective, right, when I'm out there asking questions, Kevin Stefanski didn't give you a lot, but he also, accepted every question. He didn't kind of put you down as a reporter. Todd Monken is blunt.
Okay.
And that's one of the things about him. I think he's blunt with players. I think he'd be blunt with reporters. Honest, but has a little bit of an edge to him.
There are a lot of people that feel this was Jimmy Haslam's call and not Andrew Berry. We were told this would be an Andrew Berry search, right? Where do you stand on that? A lot of people think Andrew Berry. I have to be honest, I thought Berry was looking for the next young coach, so I was a little off in that regard. But at the same point, a lot of people think Haslam. This was all Haslam.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I think, first of all, they do everything so collaboratively in that organization. And, they have a bunch of people in the interviews, and then a bunch of people give their opinion about the candidates, about the interviews. So I don't think it was a Jimmy Haslam hire. I think if you look at it that way, Haslam's a guy that likes to make a splash. And Todd Monken is not a splashy pick, right? So I don't think it was a Haslam move. But what it says is they needed a guy to fix the offense. They were determined to find that guy, and they thought Monken was better than a Nate Shieldhouse or even a Grant Udinski.
So you had Lamar in Baltimore. Is this a Shador-type move?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they still have to look at the market. Could he help Shador Sanders? Certainly.
Okay.
And, we've talked about it a million times. I think Shador got better as the season went on. I think there's a lot of potential, but I don't think you can just say he's the guy in 2026. You have to explore all your options.
All right, let's get to Schwartz now. Is he upset like we're hearing? Is he out of here, or is there a chance maybe kind of like Myles Garrett, throw me the money, maybe I'll stick around?
I think there's a chance he stays. Number one, he's under contract.
Yep.
And the Browns have been adamant about that. Every time you talk to somebody, he's under contract. What surprises me, Chud, is I think they underestimated how upset Schwartz would be. Okay. And he's got a big ego. And I think if you're around him at all, he's got a big ego. So he had to think he was the best candidate for this job, especially looking at the finals, right? Todd Monken and Nate Shieldhouse. So I think he looked at that and said, this should be my job, and it's tough for him to get over. Now, maybe if you give him a raise, he sits down with Todd Monken, maybe they can work it out. But it's going to be hard because I do think that anger or frustration is real.
Yeah, money can halt anger, though. But even if it's not money, can they get along?
Right. I think they can. I mean, they have, similar careers. Monken spent more time in college than Jim did, but same age, been around the league a long time. And I think it'd be a great fit. I think when the Browns hired Monken, the hope was, okay, you got the defense set with Jim Schwartz, and then Monken fixes the offense. But what the beauty of having an older coach like Monken is, he better have a plan B, right? He had to have in mind that Schwartz might leave, so he has to have a defensive coordinator in mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say they has to think about that. All right, before we go, he doesn't sound like he has a magic button. If he doesn't get the players, Scott, if he doesn't get the offensive linemen, he doesn't get the receivers, you and I will be sitting here next year, the year after, talking about the next head coach.
That's exactly right. I mean, we look at what he did in Georgia. He had a big-time quarterback in Georgia when they win back-to-back national championships. You look at what he did with Lamar. It's Lamar Jackson, right? He's an multiple-time MVP. So, yes, he did great things, but coaches can only do great things if they have great players.
And by the way, he had Derrick Henry.
He did too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's
Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers.
Right, a potent offense, right? I mean, that's the way it goes. So, Scott Petrak, great job as always, and we'll have you in again in a few weeks to break it down and see where they move as far as the assistant coaches and players and draft and all that.
Sounds good.
All right.